All right, hey guys, thanks for checking out Race Spec here on Whiskey Throttle Media. We've got our 2025 Triumph TC 250, and there are some changes from 24 to this model, and their timing is a little off. We're late into 25 already, where typically 26s would be coming out, but they're still calling this a 25 even though it was just released. ECU changes, a couple other little things that do make it slightly different in terms of engine performance, while the chassis remained the same as last year in 24. So we're going to reference our race spec from 2024 that we did, because that obviously will still work with the chassis. We're going to add some different things we found out today with our test riders, one of them being Adam Persitza here. Adam, take me through kind of your initial thoughts of this and the changes you made and how they work.
Yeah, so I was lucky enough to get to ride the 24 for the end of last year before going out to ride the 450 for the first time. So I was pretty familiar with it. Overall, liked the bike, but it was a little sluggish. So the biggest update with this is the updated ECU. I was told they're gaining 1.5 horsepower, somewhere in that range, and it was definitely noticeable. Where the last year, it really had a lull in the mid-power. This thing just, I felt like, pulled the whole time. Second gear's a little short, and third maybe could start a little quicker, but other than that, it was just very consistent. It did feel a lot faster, and it made it a lot easier to be more aggressive. Where like last time we were talking about intermediates experts might feel it's lacking, I think they'd feel right at home on the 25 now. So with that, we had different riders. Obviously, Ping rode it last year, East Coast track, a little bit different setup. We had a little different ideas of what we'd like for a race spec on this. Some kind of in tune, but it's really good. Both of them are going to be a good frame reference where you could start from to really set this bike and have it at home for you. So one thing we did, the forks were at 5 millimeters. We dropped that down. We went flush out here. I probably could have backed it up a little bit, back to like 1.5, which is what we talked about last year as well. Big thing we noticed, so right, important for all new bikes, make sure you set up everything up for yourself. So the bars came pretty rolled forward, which me being taller, I'm 6'1", I'm like, oh, it felt comfortable, but I was getting a lot of front end, like where it's oversteering and just really easy to put too much input into the front end. So with dropping the forks, rolling those back a little bit, actually past neutral, it just settled the front end a lot more, and it made it a really comfortable ride. Other than that, last year we talked about changing some of the compression clickers and stuff like that with the rebound as well. We just left those all the same. We're really comfortable with them. And it just tracted really well. We put the sag at 102, which is pretty comparable with most of those, what we've talked about with the Triumphs, setting them up well. And it was myself, Cody Moore, and Bruce Murata all rode this thing today. And with that setup, we were all super happy with how the bike handled. Couple things we changed. Last year we talked about putting a tooth on the rear. With the change in the power, you could get away without doing that. If you still feel like you need a little more, obviously you could do that. Tighter track, you might appreciate it. But out here at Paula, this thing pulled great. I wasn't searching for that low end grunt. It just had that power immediately. But I would definitely still jump up to a 110 rear tire. They put the 100 on it. It's definitely a weight saving because they're saying that the leading class power to weight ratio. But I definitely felt like I'm breaking the rear loose or coming hard on the brakes. It's not quite grabbing how I want it to. So we had a 110 on the 24, and it definitely suits this motor a lot better.
Yeah, and there was another thing adjustment we made, which I think you have in your notes, and that is the steering stem. If this thing is so loose that it just falls over and kind of almost bounces, it'll make the front of the bike feel very nervous. So this is true on any bike, but for whatever reason, it was particularly important on the Triumph, just to put some tension on that headset so that there's just a little bit of resistance as it falls. I still like mine pretty loose, but it just can't be totally sloppy.
Yeah, that's a good point. And that, again, just helped with that front end stability, especially as ruddy, a little rough, especially later in the day out here, and that just helped keep it in track. But it's a very predictable bike. If you put too much input trying to turn, it's going to get a little out of whack. You just got to trust this thing when you get in that rut, let it do what it's going to do, and this thing will go where you want it to. So overall, we're really happy with this. These are just the first few things we'd say to kind of do before you try to add anything else to the bike to dial it in for yourself, and it'll be a really good base for you.
So you guys didn't make much changes to the clickers. Let us know what you did there. You said you set the sag at 102,
Yeah,
right?
102 on the sag. Actually, we left everything else in the same position.
Okay.
So last year, some of the stuff we'll talk about. So for the rear shock, high speed compression or high speed was at 1 turn out. You guys switched it to 3/4 out, so you kind of backed it in a bit. Low speed was 10 out. You left that there. rebound. It started at 10, you went to 8, kind of softened it up, where I'm 195, 6'1", so I definitely put a little bit more of a load on the suspension, even though, right, you're obviously a faster rider than me. And then moving to the forks, it started at 10 out on compression, you went to 12, and then we already talked about tighten up the steering. So all within that kind of range. On the 24, I stiffened it up from where you guys had it just because it felt a little bit better for me. But this one just right from the dealer, we were happy with it. We made those changes, like I said, with the forks. I had to adjust the brake a little bit. It was pretty loose where it didn't bite almost through the entire stroke. So it was an easy adjustment and just to get it grab a little bit harder. And yeah, we were thrilled with how it felt today.
Yeah, this bike's incredibly made right out of the factory. They're getting those settings and specs now dialed. This is just something that is a process with a new model, and they're getting there quickly. I mean, they're winning Supercross races. These guys are obviously full speed ahead with development. One thing I want to mention is that Racetech has a really good resource. One thing that you're going to need to do is make sure your spring rate is correct. Doesn't matter the motorcycle, particularly with this though. This is a very sensitive chassis. And a few clicks here, a few clicks there, the right setting, sag numbers, it all matters. So go to Racetech's site. Under resources, you can find your weight and what is the right spring rate for your weight for any particular bike. And it's super, super important. Some people go, it's close. I'll make it work. Not if you want it to handle the way that it should. So use that resource over at Racetech. And if you are having issues with the front or rear end that you can't get sorted, go to them to do a revalve and really help you out. Those guys absolutely do a fantastic job of finding your weight, your speed, your type of riding, and giving you the perfect setting. So check out Racetech. It's a great resource. Like I said, that guide's on their website for free, racetech.com. And if you've got one of these bikes, hopefully this helps you with some direction and our thoughts so you maybe don't feel totally alone. I know sometimes when you're trying to set up a bike and you don't know what to do, it can feel pretty lonely out there. So
yeah, and last thing I want to add on, if you already own a 24, all the updates that are available on the 25, you can take it back to your dealer and they're going to do the same. So they'll remap the ECU. They made some updates to the clutch components just for a little bit better reliability. And then they changed out some of the controls that were having some water issues. So some of that was under recall. The other things, it was just updates they knew moving forward they wanted to do. So you can take your 24 down and it's the exact same bike as the 25 when you walk out of that dealership. So that's just a great way. Triumph is, right, investing in the people who invested then.
Yeah, and kudos to Triumph for doing that. That's like going in and getting a new bike. That's great for them to do that. Stick around. We will have our Triumph 450 coming out very soon. We'll do the same thing, an introduction video with that and a race spec as well. So if you pick one of those up, you'll have a good place to start. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Thank you to Racetech for supporting these. And Adam, thank you for all you guys' hard work today. You did a great job. See you guys next time.